Hello, Conrad, Lucy, and Caleb. It's Papa and Spider-Man here with the latest Fantastic Four adventure. This time, they're up against a new villain named Gideon. And the question is, can you guess what makes Gideon the most powerful foe of all? He has a power which enables him to turn friend against friend and brother against sister. So the title of this comic story is A House Divided. Fantastic Four are going to be fighting against each other. Let's see why, and let's see what happens. Our story begins in this giant business office. Look at all the people working there, and who's this fella? Sitting in a throne with a huge desk and a whole bank of telephones. This is the palatial office of Gregory Hungerford Gideon. Mr. Gideon, the ruthless multi-billionaire financial wizard who is soon to become one of the most dangerous adversaries the Fantastic Four have ever faced. For Gregory, Gideon possesses one of the greatest powers on earth, the power of unlimited wealth. If you ask him what his superpower is, he'll say, "I'm rich." All right, he's on the phone. He says, "Gideon talking. My answer is no. I will not lend your bank any more money." And here's some guards with bags full of money. And the policeman says, "We've got to take this $1 billion back to the mint, boys. Mr. Gideon wanted only new bills." All right, so old dollar bills won't count. One fellow over here says, "I keep hearing rumors that Gideon is trying to take over control of the entire planet." And the other fellow says, "Insane as it may sound, if anyone can do it, Gideon can." All right, let's see what happens next. Later, after he has ordered everyone out of his stadium-sized office, Gregory Gideon switches on a worldwide TV intercom unit, and he's talking to people all around the world. Here's one fellow who says, "This is Commander Van Root in South Africa. You called me, Gideon?" "Yes. Remain where you are," Gideon orders. And then here's someone else. "This is Tamaroff in Cairo. You almost ruined us with that new company you set up, but we'll beat you yet." Gideon answers, "Bah, I can buy you and sell you, and you know it." Finally, there's a third man on the speakerphone. He says, "Faversham in London here. Why have you gotten us all together this way? To gloat over the fact that you are gaining control of our financial empires? Silence, I shall tell you. At the rate I'm going, it will take me 3 more years to drive you all out of business and to take over financial mastery of the entire world. That is too slow. I haven't the patience to wait. I want to own everything, and I want it now." One of his callers says, "You sound like a madman, Gideon." "Call me what you will. I have a challenge for you. Set me a task, any task which you consider impossible. If I accomplish it in 1 week, you sell out to me now. If I fail, I'll give up my plan for world domination." And the Faversham says, "Agreed, Gideon. At last you've bitten off more than you can chew. Your task shall be the most impossible one of all time. You are to defeat the Fantastic Four. You have 1 week." Look at Gideon smoking his cigar with his shaved bald head. That part looks pretty good, don't you think? He says, "Then I'll start immediately. This is what I like, a fight. I've never lost yet. With my wealth, I can do anything." And so then he pushes a button on his intercom. "Send in my top planning board, at once. The next morning, minutes after arising, Reed Richards gets up and he's putting on his uniform and he hears wham, bam, bam. He says, "What's that racket downstairs? It sounds like someone is dismantling our equipment." Rushing to the floor, Reed is astonished to see, look, workmen taking the Fantasticar and our missile. He says, "Stop it, hold it, what's going on?" And the worker says, "Sorry, Mr. Richards, we have our orders. Better stay back." A fellow over here says, "Easy with that crane, boys. Okay, lower away." "Wait, that's our pogo plane. Come back with it." But he realizes, even though he's stretching as far and as fast as he can, he says, "I'm too late. I've got to see who is responsible for this." And so he swoops around and looks at the papers. He says, "Who's in charge here? Who authorized all this? You'd better have a mighty good explanation for me." The fellow says, Now, Mr. Richards, it's all perfectly legal. Mr. Ben Grimm ordered us to take his share of your equipment." Ben Grimm? The Thing? Reed's friend? Reed says, "You must be mad. Ben would never. Wait, what's this?" He asks, "Recognize the signature, Richards?" Reed says, "It is Ben's. But why? What's gotten into him? He can't do this." And look, Mr. Fantastic throws a tantrum. He says, "Those ships belong to all of us, to the team. He's got no right. Where is he?" And then there's a voice. It's Ben. He says, "Right here, you double-dealing phony." The policeman says, "Easy, Grimm. If he's who you say he is, he'll be plenty dangerous." Well, what does Ben say that Reed is? He says, "Nuts. He don't scare me. This won't be the first time I tackled a Skrull." Reed says, "A Skrull?" Well, Ben thinks that Reed Richards, his friend, is an alien Skrull. I wonder why. Ben says, "Don't try to act innocent with me, wise guy. The jig's up. So just tell me what you did with the real Reed Richards before I turn you into a dehydrated glob of silly putty. The cops told me how they found your spaceship last night with hidden instructions about impersonating my rubber-boned body." Reed says, "Ben, hold it. I'm the real Mr. Fantastic." Ben stretches him out and says, "Sure, sure. And I'm Thor without my golden curls." So, why do you think Ben thinks that Reed Richards is a Skrull? Well, remember, a Skrull can shapeshift and look like anyone. And a Skrull also is elastic and can stretch, okay? And so it's a perfect disguise for a Skrull to pretend to be Mr. Fantastic. But we know that he's the real Reed Richards. Well, in the fight, look, Reed Richards gets all stretched out. The policemen grab a hold of him and say, "Hold him, men. Don't let him break away." Another policeman says, "Send for reinforcements, Joe. It's like trying to hold back a hurricane." And Ben says, "I'll keep him busy while you fingerprint him, but step on it, you guys." Reed says, "No, Ben. Fingerprints won't prove anything." The policeman thinks they just might. We still have the prints of the Skrull who impersonated you months ago. If your fingerprints now match his. And the policeman realizes they're identical. The other policeman says, "That clinches it. The Thing was right. We're holding a real Skrull." Thing says, "You heard him. Now where's Reed Richards? Talk, you creep." Reed says, "Use your head, Ben. Of course my prints match the Skrull's. When they impersonate someone, they do it completely, even to the heartbeat. Fingerprints don't prove anything." Ben says, "Shut up. You ain't talking your way out of this. So we've got these two friends fighting each other. Then, realizing that he is a victim of one of the most ingeniously diabolical frame-ups of all time, the fabulous Mr. Fantastic uses the full power of his pliable body as never before, freeing himself with one sudden, irresistible snap. Watch it, Charlie! Can't hold on. He moves too fast. Where'd he go? Thing says, yow! And Reed thinks, I've got to get away, learn what's behind all this. But at that very moment, when Sue Storm reaches her suburban home, she looks around and sees it's destroyed. She hollers, good heavens, what could have happened here? She hollers out, Johnny, where are you? Are you all right? There's a scribbled note crudely written on the wall. Oh no, it can't be. The note says, am fighting Dr. Doom. Can't hold out any longer. Beware, sis. Doom's robot. Sue thinks he was captured by Dr. Doom and he tried to warn me. Something about a robot. And then all of a sudden, here's Johnny. He says, hi, sis. Hey, what's happened here? Sue thinks that must be Doom's robot. Remember, Doom has the power to create robots that appear to be what they are not. And so Sue goes on. She thinks he doesn't know I read the message on the wall. And then she says, don't come any closer. I won't let you leave until you tell me where my brother is. Johnny thinks, uh-oh, I don't like this. The last time I heard Sue talk that way, she was in the power of the Puppet Master. You remember the Puppet Master, right? He's the one who can control other minds. And so now Johnny thinks that Sue is controlled by the Puppet Master. Sue thinks Johnny is a robot. So Johnny says, flame on. And he says, now you just stay there until hey. Sue says, I don't know how Dr. Doom could give a robot the power of my brother, but my invisible force field will protect me from his flame. All right, and so he flames on, and Sue creates an invisible force field. Look what she does next. Oh, Lucy, can you see? Even though it's invisible, we can see it. All right, she uses her force field, and she forces the Torch out of their house. And the Torch thinks, wow, I never realized she'd gotten so good with her invisible powers. She actually forced me right out of the house. And now she turns invisible, and the Torch says, wait, I'm free now. She dropped her force field, but he realizes now she's invisible. Sue thinks, I've got to reach Reed. He'll know what to do. And so see, she runs off in her invisible form. The Torch looks closely. He thinks, even though I can't see Sue, I can see the impression she leaves on the grass and bushes as she runs past. If I follow, maybe she'll lead me to the Puppet Master. Meanwhile, at his 1,000-acre estate in Westchester, Gregory Gideon listens to a report. Okay, so his assistant says, your plan is going well so far, sir. The FF are beginning to fight among themselves. It shouldn't take much longer. Gideon says, I knew it couldn't fail. It's the greatest strategy of all, divide and conquer. I paid $1 million for this plan, and it was well worth it. So, did you realize? It's Mr. Gideon who's behind all these deceptions. The planting of the spaceship that gave Ben the idea that Reed is a Skrull. He arranged to have the equipment repossessed by the bank. And then He's the one who arranged to have Sue's house destroyed with that message about the robot. Okay, and so this is all a sneaky plan to divide the Fantastic Four, and hopefully they will conquer each other. So the assistant shows a picture. He says, "This is the phony spaceship we planted last night, with evidence inside to indicate that Reed Richards is really a masquerading Skrull." Gideon says, "Spare me the details. They are for lesser men like you." Okay. And then in comes a lovely lady. It's Gideon's wife. "Gregory, dear, are you ready for dinner now?" And the assistant says, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Gideon. I've never had the pleasure before." But Mr. Gideon is very rude. He says, "All right, Smedley, you're dismissed now. Get out." And then he turns his rudeness on his wife. He says, "Haven't I told you never to interrupt me when I'm talking business? When will you learn to know your place?" And poor Mrs. Gideon, she says, "I'm sorry, Gideon. I didn't think. I was so glad to see you home. You're home so rarely, and I get so lonely." And then here comes his son. "Oh, Dad, you're home. You're home." Gideon says, "Hello, Thomas. How's my little man today? What's that you're holding?" Thomas says, "It's a magazine, Dad. I was reading it when I heard your car enter the driveway." "If only you could be home more often, Dad, like other fathers. Sometimes Mommy and I miss you so much." Gideon says, "I know, son, but I'm not like other men. Someday you'll realize that when I give you this entire planet for a plaything." Thomas says, "But I don't want any old planet. I just want you." Gideon says, "I need to change the subject. What magazine are you reading, Thomas?" he asks. Thomas says, "It's the Fantastic Four. They're my favorite heroes." Gideon thinks, "But not for long, son. Not for long." Because Gideon is going to try to defeat the Fantastic Four. But back to the leader of the fabulous FF. We're back at the Baxter Building, and look, Mr. Fantastic is rolled up in a ball. He thinks, "This is my only chance to escape. I've got to be free so I can get to the bottom of all of this." And so he uses his sphere to bounce out of the window, breaking the glass. The Thing hollers out, says, "You ain't getting away from me that easy, bub." And then Reed says, "Yes, I am, Ben, unless you think you can fly." And look at what Mr. Fantastic does. He turns his body into a parachute, and so he can float down to the ground. But as he looks back, he says, "Ben, wait, don't." What is Ben about to do? Ben jumps out of the window. Oh no! But he says, "All right, so I ain't a blamed human parakeet. But there's a little stunt I've been wanting to try, and this is as good a time as any." What is he going to do? Well, look! He's using his powerful legs to bounce from one wall to another. He says, "Whee, it works. I can keep breaking my fall by bouncing from wall to wall as I drop. But I wouldn't recommend it for a steady diet. No, I imagine it would jar pretty badly." He says, "Heads up, Skrull. Here I come." Well, meanwhile, back with Sue and Johnny, Sue's in a taxi, and she's thinking, "I was afraid of that. Dr. Doom's robot is still searching for me." Well, it's not the robot, it's the Torch. The Torch thinks Sue can't have gotten far. She must be around here somewhere. And he flies from car to car looking to see if he can find her. Well, Sue says, "I'd better remain invisible till I find Reed." And then she says to the taxi driver, "I'll get out here, driver." And so she hands him a dollar bill. The driver turns around and he says, "Okay, lady, I, ah." because she's no longer there. All he sees is a dollar bill floating in the air. Wow, there's a ghost in his taxi. Then, reaching the Baxter building on foot, Sue sees Ben and Reed fighting each other. She thinks, has the whole world gone mad? She cries out, boys, stop! Listen to me, I need your help. Don't you hear me? Ben says, I can't stop now, Susie. I sort of got my hands full, if you know what I mean. Reed says, Sue, remain invisible. I suspect that we're all in grave danger. I think so. The startled girl gives up on the shelter of her own invisibility to protect the man she loves. She says, Ben, put that down. You mustn't injure Reed. And so she throws her force field around the thing who's got this slab of concrete in his hand. He says, hey, what's stopping me from finishing that creep off? And here comes the torch. Reed sees him and says, what's the torch trying to do? Sue, duck, quick. So, what an event. The torch says, relax, Reed. I wasn't going to hit her. I just wanted to stay put long enough to tell me why she thinks I'm not really the torch. And Sue cries out, Reed, be careful. He isn't the torch. He's one of Dr. Doom's robots. Reed says, what's happening to us? Ben calls me a Skrull. You say that Johnny is really a robot. Are we all cracking up? We've got to find out who's responsible for all this and why. But look here. This is one of Mr. Gideon's assistants. He thinks, so far Gideon's plan is letter perfect. Now I'll just lay this concussion gun here where it will be found. What's going to happen with the concussion gun? Sue is now standing next to Reed. She says, oh no, Reed, Ben just told Johnny to attack you. And so we've got Ben and the torch against Reed and Sue. Thing says, go get the crummy Skrull, kid. And so here comes the torch, gangway. Reed says, stay back, Johnny. Don't be a fool. Sue says, no, Johnny, no. And then, menaced by his own partners, with only a split second to act, the valiant leader of the FF seizes the strange gun which lies so conveniently near at hand, and he fires, aiming between his two attackers in the hope of forcing them back. And so Reed says, whatever this weapon is, perhaps it will make them stop. I need more time to think, to puzzle this out. And Sue says, my own brother teamed up with Ben, fighting us. How did it happen? Well, we know the answer to that, but when will the Fantastic Four figure it out that it's really Mr. Gideon using his money to drive a wedge between them? So, Reed fires this pellet, this concussion pellet, and the torch and the thing dodge it. The torch says, heads up, Ben. He just fired something at us. Thing says, is that so? Boy, you're getting to be a regular Huntley and Brinkley. Okay, they were TV news reporters back in the day. But what's going to happen with the concussion pellet? Bam! 1 microsecond later, the lethal cartridge explodes with the force of a battle grenade, stunning all 4 of the colorful combo. And so they are all concussed. They're knocked out. Has Gideon won? Has he defeated the Fantastic Four? Has his strategy of divide and conquer accomplished what others could not do? Well, we're going to have to wait until the next episode to find out. All right. Well, I'm just as eager to read the rest of the story as you are to hear it. So we'll do it very soon. Okay? All right. Love y'all. Talk to you later. Bye-bye now.